The clock on the parish wall marked 7:30 a.m., and Tomas's life unfolded in a familiar dance. The notes of a soft melody from an old radio filled the small kitchen. The smell of fresh coffee and toast floated in the air, an aroma that had become synonymous with hope for him. Tomas, a man of faith with a well-kept beard and eyes that smiled even when his mouth didn't, was a single father and a priest. His life was not dedicated to cells or cloisters, but to the small community of his parish and, above all, to his daughter, little Sophia. Fatherhood, for Tomas, was a vocation as sacred as the priesthood. Sophia, with her curly hair and a smile that lit up the world, was his greatest treasure. He was getting her ready for school while mentally reviewing the topics for his interview. It wasn't just any interview. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. The position of head chaplain at St. Jude's Hospital, one of the largest and most prestigious healthcare institutions in the city, was on the line. The chance to extend his hand to hundreds of souls in search of comfort was a dream he had held for years. "Good luck, Dad," Sophia said, her eyes shining with pride. "You're going to get it." Tomas hugged her, feeling the warmth of her love and the certainty of her faith. "Thank you, my angel," he replied, adjusting his blue tie. The tie wasn't new, but it was his favorite. It symbolized the seriousness and hope he carried that day. With a kiss on his daughter's forehead, he left. The engine of his old V6 roared to life, a familiar sound that was taking him on his new journey. The morning sun bathed the city streets in a golden glow, and Tomas felt that the universe was aligned with his purpose. The interview was scheduled for 9 a.m. He had plenty of time, but, as if fate had a macabre sense of humor, Tomas's life did not follow a predictable script. Just 4 blocks from the hospital, traffic came to a standstill. Cars piled up in a confusion of metal and impatient horns. Tomas looked at his watch, feeling anxiety begin to form in his throat. He tried to calm down, but the frustration grew thicker with each passing minute. It was then that he saw her, a woman, sitting on the sidewalk with her head in her hands, looked like a point of despair in the gray landscape. Her car was stopped in the middle of the street with the hood open, but it wasn't the car that caught Tomas's attention. It was the pain in her eyes, the way she trembled, as if she were on the brink of an abyss. For a brief moment, Tomas thought about driving on. The interview, his daughter's future. Everything seemed to depend on him getting there on time. However, his heart, trained by faith and compassion, would not allow it. "Faith is about acting, not just believing," he whispered to himself. He stopped the car and got out, ignoring the impatient honking of the other drivers. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked, his voice soft and calming. The woman looked at him in a panic. She tried to speak, but the words were lost in a gasp. It was a panic attack. Tomas, with years of experience dealing with human anguish, knew exactly what to do. He sat down on the sidewalk next to her, ignoring the dust and the noise of the city. He guided her with simple, calming words. "Breathe, ma'am. Look at me. Focus on the sound of my voice. Everything is fine. You are safe." Slowly, her breathing normalized. Tears ran down her face, but the trembling subsided. She looked at Tomas with deep gratitude, as if he had just saved her from a shipwreck. "Thank you so much," she whispered. I don't know what I would have done without you." Tomas smiled, a genuine and warm smile. "You're welcome. Just keep breathing. That's how life is, sometimes." When he finally helped her into a taxi, making sure she would be safe, he looked at his watch again. The clock read 9:15 a.m. The interview was irremediably lost. The dream he had nurtured with such affection and hope had slipped through his fingers. He loosened his tie, feeling a weight on his chest. The feeling of defeat was overwhelming. He returned home, his head bowed. The house seemed quieter, the sunlight less bright. He didn't tell Sophia what had happened. He just hugged her more tightly, feeling the need to be consoled. In the following days, a cloud of disappointment hung over him. The parish seemed a little emptier, and the words of his faith felt a little more distant. He, who always had comfort for others, had none for himself. 2 days dragged on monotonous and dull. Tomas was in his study, rereading a sermon, when the phone rang. The number was unknown. Hesitantly, he answered. "Father Tomas?" asked a formal voice on the other end of the line. "This is the secretary from St. Jude's Hospital. The CEO, Ms. Eleanor Vance, would like to meet with you." Tomas felt his heart race. He thought it was a formality, perhaps to notify him that the position had been filled. He agreed to go without any hope. He arrived at the address, an imposing glass and steel building that contrasted with his humble parish. He was led to a meeting room at the top of the building. The room, with its panoramic view of the city, was the epitome of power and success. And there, standing, observing the city below, was her, the woman from the sidewalk. Eleanor Vance, the CEO, turned to face him. Instead of panic, her eyes held an expression of deep gratitude and admiration. "Father Tomas, please have a seat," she said with a firm but kind voice. Tomas sat down, confused. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry I missed the interview. I had an unforeseen circumstance." Eleanor interrupted him with a gesture. "Don't apologize. I was in my car, on my way to an important meeting, when traffic stopped. I saw a man get out of his car to help a woman in distress. The woman was my secretary, in a simulation that I orchestrated." Tomas's eyes widened. "A simulation?" "Yes," Eleanor confirmed with a smile. "I receive hundreds of resumes, Father Tomas, all of them with impeccable qualifications, success stories, and brilliant references. But I believe that a man's heart is worth more than a piece of paper. The position of head chaplain is not about having a good interview, but about having a good heart. And you, Father Tomas, prove that yours is gold." She stood up and extended a contract to him. "The position is yours, not only because of your resume, but because you passed the most important test of all, the test of humanity. You chose to help a stranger instead of seeking your own glory. That is the person I want leading the chaplaincy of my hospital." Tomas, with tears in his eyes, took the contract. The tie he had loosened in disappointment now seemed like a symbol of his victory. He not only got the job, he found an even greater purpose. He learned that sometimes the path to our dreams is not a straight line. It's a detour, an unexpected stop to help someone. The interview he missed was not a failure, but the true test. And he, the single father with a giant heart, passed with flying colors.